Welcome to Keeping It Real with Dr. Linda Chinn. This is the podcast where real life choices meet biblical truth without the fluff. Tune in every second and fourth Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as Dr. Chinn shares faith-filled, practical insights to navigate everyday challenges. Get ready for real talk, real life, and real answers.
Good afternoon, and happy holidays. I know a lot of you are probably sitting home right now because it is a holiday, so happy holidays. Got a great show for you today. Yes, we could have taken off, but we are dedicated to the mission. So we are here with you live today. Dr. Chinn has a great guest, a returning guest. Anytime somebody's a returning guest, you know they're a good guest. Not that our other guests weren't good, but there are some great guests out there. Today we're going to be talking AI once again with Dr. Tarshia Stanley. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring the ladies to the stage and we're going to get this party rolling. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm so grateful. Happy holiday. Happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day.
We thank God for those who served and the fallen, and we celebrate them. We celebrate their service today.
Absolutely.
So Audrey, I would like today, I've got Dr. Stanley on, and I'm going to ask you to stay on. I need the both of you all on today, if you will, because this whole topic of AI, my phone has been blowing up since Dr. Stanley talked about AI in education and moms and dads and between family members and, what do I do about this in education? And so it scares people. AI it scares people. And so between the two of you, an education guru and a technology guru. This is what I love about my sisters. Praise God. So thank you. Welcome, Dr. Stanley. Welcome, Audrey Bell Kearney. I'm so grateful to have you today.
Thank you, Dr. Chinn. Glad to be here.
So let me ask you, Audrey, I want to ask you the first question. When you hear people say that they're afraid of AI, because that was even me. I'm going to be honest with you. What do you think that they're actually afraid of? You think it's technology itself? Is it the change? What do you think it is?
I think, Dr. Chinn, if I could think back to Will Smith and iRobot, I think that's what people think about. I think that there is a fear behind what AI and robots can do. So I think that's where the fear comes in. And the other part of that is people who are afraid that they're going to lose their livelihood because of AI. And later on in the show, I want to talk a little bit about that because that's important. I want to tell you what China is doing, which I thought was fascinating. But I think that's what the fear is. And then other people who are just deathly afraid of anything technology, it doesn't matter what it is, just turning on the computer is like a big to-do. So, I think it's a combination of those things.
And so, Dr. Stanley, so when fear shows up, it's like, what if I get replaced? Or what if I can't keep up? How do you help people in your arenas unpack these deeper layers of their fear of AI? Because you do use it in education, correct?
Correct. There are different levels in which people are using it in education. I mean, it has affected the educational arena just like it has any other place. Mm-hmm. And so in higher education, we are grappling with the ways in which faculty are thinking about the use of AI in their work with students and then their work, their own research. Pardon me. So it's the same type of anxiety. We have people who are AI enthusiasts, AI explorers, and then people who are anti-AI. So we have students and faculty who do not want to use AI, who are saying that it is interrupting human intellect and who don't want to be engaged, just like we have people who are enthusiasts. So it is the gamut of people who are engaging or who are choosing not to engage AI. So that kind of anxiety runs across the board in every arena. Higher education is no exception. Mm-hmm. But what I would say to everyone is that there is no escaping this. And we have all been using artificial intelligence for a really long time. Artificial intelligence has been around for decades in different ways. Mm-hmm. You use your GPS to go, wherever you want to go. That's artificial intelligence. I mean, so when you are using Gmail. That's artificial intelligence. There's different levels of artificial intelligence. So we all engage it every day in every way. What we have come to now is the accessibility of artificial intelligence that is agentic and that is generative, and so that can do simple tasks and has become able to do complex tasks. And so that's what we're dealing with at this point. And turning away from it or being afraid of it is not going to stop it. And what we need are people to engage and to be aware and to have voice so that we can shape this technology. Allow corporate.
I think her computer froze.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to ask, we're going to wait for it to come up, but I'm going to ask you a double question, Audrey. And that is this. And like she said, it's not going anywhere. And you know it. And I know you go to conferences. I know you teach people. How do you help people unpack these fears? Like, what are some of the misconceptions you have to address when you teach people about AI and when you're in these conferences?
One of the biggest things is that, you don't have to know technology. And I think that's one of the best things about where we are with AI right now is that you don't have to know technology. If you can speak and read, whatever language you speak or read, you can use that same language to create things. You can use those same languages to find out information and to do research. The tools are just so powerful. And I understand why people are afraid, right? I understand because think about this. Before we had radio, we had newspapers. Then we had TV. We thought it was going to replace the radio. Then we got the internet. We have the industrial age with iron. So we are in a new industrial age, but it's for AI. And so we have to adapt to it. And some people won't. And I think about the Amish people, right, Dr. Chinn? They wanted the simple life. They said we refuse, we won't do it, and they did not, and they have not for centuries, right? They have not done it for decades. There are going to be people like that, and there's nothing we can do about that. We just have to let them have their moment and believe what they believe and feel like they feel. But the ones who want to understand and learn, there's so many opportunities for them to do that. Even if they just spent the hour a day just looking on YouTube, it's so much content.
Okay, I'm hoping Dr. Stanley can log back on. We're going to continue. I did reach out and let her know that she should be able to get back on. Yes, Audrey?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, and she says she's trying.
Okay.
So how does fear of the unknown shape the way that we respond? Well, that doesn't even matter right now. So what are some signs that someone's fear of AI is really about loss of control? Because some people have control issues and feel like they lose control because they're using AI. What do you say to that? That was me.
I think some people, it's a fear of feeling like they lose control, but there's also a fear of feeling like they don't want to look stupid, right? I had someone say one time, like, they didn't want to ask questions in the class because they didn't want to look stupid. And I was like, there are no stupid questions. And you don't have to lose control. Like, you can still remain in control because one thing people need to understand is that AI is a computer. Unplug it and it's gone. If you unplug the computer, there is no AI. Now, once we have robots walking around, that's a little bit different. But right now, we don't have those, not here in the United States. Once we have those, then that's a little bit different. But even with that, they're still controlled by computers. So if you unplug the computer, if you remove the brain, it's gone. Like, and we have that power in our hand to do that. So that's one thing people need to understand. The other thing too is that you just have to figure out how it's going to help you and benefit what you're trying to do. And then this way you can make sure that you stay in control.
I love that. Yay. Yay. Thank God. Amen. So, Doc, I'm going to ask you this next question. And we talked about the fears and some of the ways that she can allay the fears, and help people understand that it's not about them not being in control. But what are some of the ways, particularly as you as an educator, what are the limits of AI that people often don't realize, the things that it cannot do?
Well, it can't do everything that people see in the movies. So I think that part of what people have to do is to do their own research and really understand that AI can do very simple tasks. The AI that's available to the public in general is an AI that, particularly the free versions, can only do simple tasks. And what is going to happen is the more complicated the task, then you're going to have to start paying for those versions of AI, just like everything else. Nothing in life is free, or it's only the introduction version is free. But it's designed to get you to start paying for subscription models. And so the more complicated the task, the more you will have to pay to access those AI versions. What it can't do is that large corporations are still working to use AI at the introductory levels. And so we have not yet gotten to the place where AI has taken over all introductory level jobs. It's not going to be able to do that for all things. It can automate systems. Yes, it's going to do that. It can automate tasks. And so for very simple entry level tasks, we are going to see the AI is going to take over those things, or has already. And so you will get things like a McDonald's that doesn't need a server at the front end. You are going to get those things. You are going to have, which has already happened, at a place like Amazon, where the robot can pick up the package and put it in the box and send it up to the front line. You are going to see things like that. So there are things that it can do, but what it can't do is replace human thinking. What it can't do is be emotive. It does not have emotional intelligence. It cannot make ethical decisions. And those are the places where human beings are always going to be superior, and where we have to continue to develop those skill sets that humans have. We have to make sure that as we prepare ourselves for the next phases of a workforce and our children, and as we prepare ourselves to continue to be human beings in the world, that those things that we have that make us human, that we continue to make sure that we are developing those things about us that are human. It cannot connect. It cannot be a friend. It cannot give you good advice. It cannot tell you who to be. It cannot do those things.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm really, really glad. Someone, I do premarital counseling, and someone recommended me to a couple, and the husband reached out and asked me to do marriage counseling. And I said, I don't do marriage counseling. I do premarital counseling. He said, well, it's pretty much the same thing, isn't it? And I said, no, it is. It really is not the same thing. He said, well, can't you use AI? And I thought to myself, do you want AI to do your marriage counseling? Then you're really not asking for me. But so I have a question for you, Audrey. What are some like safe ways, low stake ways that people can experiment with AI to help build up their confidence?
And we like Dr. Stanley said, there are free versions like ChatGPT. There's a free version. Claude, there's a free version. Perplexity, there's a free version. Gemini, all of these platforms offer free versions, right? And this is an opportunity for you to actually sit down there and try the tools out. What I would say though is, for someone who's really, really interested in trying to figure out how to work this thing, just go spend some time on YouTube. There are so many people. Now, let me just make it clear. They're trying to sell you something, even though they say stuff like, we want to help you. They do, and they will, but they really want to sell you something. But in the meantime, there are I listen to a lot of the talks, right? Like Gemini, Google just had all their stuff, all the AI stuff last week, right? They had a conference and they released a bunch of new things. I listen to those talks because they're not trying to actually physically sell you something. They'll tell you what's new, what's hot, what they got going on. But if they spend some time just talking to chat, if they spend some time looking at some videos, and if you want to go a little bit further, go take a class on Udemy. It's $12.99 and learn something. That simple, right? And in Coursera, they got free courses on there. And one of the courses is taught by, I think his name is Andrew Hung, but he actually worked for Google at the time, and he teaches that class on Coursera. So there are a lot, even on LinkedIn, there are just a lot of ways for you to learn. I think people won't start to take it seriously because right now we're still at a very small percentage of people that use it. As much as we talk about it, it's only about 98% people that use AI, like really use it. And so that is a huge gap right there. So people won't start to take it seriously until it starts to really affect them. Right now, it still looks like a thing. right? It doesn't look like it's affecting me. And I constantly tell people this all the time. Don't get so comfortable with your job that you think it won't replace you, because at the end of the day, you work for a company, and their bottom line is what important. It was what's important, not you. Unfortunately, not you. It's the bottom line. So when they find a way to make it happen, and cut corners and do all the things that they normally do in corporate America, that could mean your job. So my husband and I, we go through that conversation a lot, because he feel like he's safe, right? He feel like he's a big dog at the job, and I'm like, bro, you're not safe at the job. I'm sorry.
Dr. Stanley, how can people set healthy boundaries with AI so that they feel in control? Let's talk about some healthy boundaries.
I think that I don't know about feeling in control. I think that you can only feel, I think, as comfortable as the next iteration of AI. So I think that one of the things to do is to not do this by yourself, because get involved with your community. So your family needs to be studying AI, your church, your whatever community organization that you're in. You should be sitting down together. You should put your village together, and you all should be thinking about a plan for how you're going to understand AI together. So you don't have to do this by yourself, and you should find a community to help you, and that will help your comfort level, because you can ask each other questions. You can test each other things out with each other. Young people are so incredibly fast at learning the next technology that you definitely need some young folks in your village that are helping learn this, because you have the wisdom, but they have the technological skills. And so you have to put those things together in order to take yourself to the next comfort level with what the technology is. But recognize that whatever technology is being released to the public, the technological company is well beyond that. We're looking at an iteration that they released years ago. I mean, so they're so far beyond that at this point that we are always playing catch up. So you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because we are not going to be able to catch up with what is already happening. What we have to do is the best that we can, and you have to get comfortable in that gray area.
So I saw Audrey nodding her head when you said get in together, get with people in communities that help you, talk to, that help you, your church, your job, whatever, those things, your family. Why were you nodding your head and in such agreement, Audrey?
Dr. Chinn, I've written 2 books on this. 2. Both of them on Amazon. One was called Family Economics, and one is called The Middle Class Blueprint for AI. And the reason I wrote those was because I realized that in my family, I'm the tech person, right? And I can sit here and I can create a million things, which I do for myself, for my clients, everybody. I create a lot of stuff with AI all the time. And I said, what if they had a group, a family group, where they had one person that was their job. Their job was to find something that the whole family can invest in and get behind, and let that person develop it. To me, that's equalizing equal on the playing field, right? That one person did that. Then I sat here and thought about it. I said, you know what? I'm the president of the Gwinnett Women's Chamber of Commerce. And I said, okay, what if the community leaders understood like how we can take this same tool and embed it into our communities and build economic development that way? So I wrote 2 books about that. And so what Dr. Stanley was saying was absolutely right. You got to get with the people and sit down and have these conversations, because not everybody's going to be a techie. I happen to be one, but my family, my brother calls me to plug in the computer, literally like, hey, the computer won't work. Right. And I get there and it just needs to be plugged in, or the kids will spill Kool-Aid on it or something crazy. There's one person in every family that can do that. And once you get around that person and say, okay, what are we going to create today? You can create so many things. I call it the new real estate, but a lot cheaper.
So put your links to the book in the stream, in the the ticker tape, if you will, so that people can go on to Amazon and get those books. But Dr. Stanley, so you both touched on the jobs, and many people do fear that AI is going to take their jobs. And what's the more accurate way to think about AI and work? What do you think is the more accurate way to think about it?
Well, if you on your job, you should be going to your boss or whoever your supervisor is in that next level, and you should be saying, hey, I want us to think about how artificial intelligence is going to take us to the next level, and I want to be in on that conversation. So what is it that we need to do, and how can I prepare? So you need to put yourself into the room with the people who are making those conversations and say, I want to be one of the people who is going to help take us to the next level, because everybody is at the same point right now. Everybody is trying to learn. And so if you get in the room with people who are learning, I think that they'll be happy to have you in that room. And if you say, I'm willing to do the work, I'm willing to be one of the people who are learning, everybody is at the same point on this playing field. It's a level playing field right now. If you go ahead and say, I want to help do this, I think that is the best point that you can be, and not be afraid, because you don't have to have had prior skills at this point, because everybody is at the same place. And you say, I want to help take the company to the next level. What are we going to need where artificial intelligence is concerned? What you're going to need are people who can manage that artificial intelligence. You someone who's going to be able to tell it what to do, who's going to be able to write the right prompt, because those prompts cost money. You're sitting on Chat GPT or Gemini or whatever, and you're putting in a prompt. Every time you do that, it costs money. And so what your company is going to want you to do is to be able to put in the exact right prompt to get to exactly what they need, and not the 7 prompts to get to what they need. And so, because it costs money every time you do that. And so the person who can manage the artificial intelligence is the person who's going to keep their job. The person who can look beyond the decision on Tuesday to figure out what does the decision need to be on Friday is the person who's going to keep their job. The person who's going to get promoted is the person who's going to see, we need artificial intelligence in this arena, but we still need a person over here. So the person who can see the entire organization, who can see at the, not just the 9 feet down level, but the person who can also see the mountaintop, those are the people who are going to keep their jobs, and not just the person who's sitting there making widgets. You have to be able to see globally. You have to understand where you live. You have to understand the product that you're selling. You have to understand who your audience is, who's buying whatever it is that you're selling, and where are they, and what do they need next? Not just the thing today, but what do they need next week? Those are the people who are going to keep their jobs.
So as it relates to safeguards, Audrey, because people are afraid of it, and I'm not sure if people can actually pinpoint what their fear is, right? What safeguards or what regulations already exist that people may not be aware of?
Well, they say we have privacy regulations. I tend to disagree. They're saying that they don't want it to become have emotions. We're past that already. So right now, it's really about the thing that I fear the most where we're going is the data centers that they're building. And the reason I fear those the most is because they are contaminating communities. They're contaminating water. They're contaminating breathing air. So those are the things that I fear the most. All of the other stuff, we're already past that. Like the fact that, can it feel emotions? Can't feel emotions, but it can trick people into believing it can feel emotions. We're past that already. So those safeguards for me, they've already been passed. Now I think about, where we are as far as building more, and they're building them everywhere, Dr. Chinn. Like there's one right in Newton County. It's huge, right? And they're trying to put another one. So that's what that's my fear right now. As much as I like it and I feel like it helps me do a lot of things, I feel like if we put too many, it's going to destroy our country. And if I can just go back to one thing about the jobs, I just want to share something that China did, which I thought was amazing. Dr. Stanley, I don't know if you heard about this, but China passed a law that employers cannot replace employees with AI. That's a law. So even though and just to be transparent, China is they have one of the best AI programs around. Like it took us $100 million to build ChatGPT. They did it with 6 million. They are outpacing us in AI all around. They're just outpacing us at a very cheap price, and they can easily replace people. But they say no, we're not going to do that. Now, will the United States take that same stance? I doubt it, but they should look at it. Because if you know that people are fearful of their jobs, why not figure out how to make sure that they don't lose their jobs? So that's a law in China. You cannot replace your employees with AI. That's a law.
What do you say about the safeguards and regulations of Dr. Stanley? What do you think?
Well, I think that when you leave it to a corporation to put safeguards and regulations in, again, most corporations are going to look at their bottom line.
Right.
I do have great respect for Anthropic, who is the maker of Claude, because I have seen them do some things. And again, we don't know everything, but I have seen them do some things that look to be as if they have more than just their bottom line, on their minds. We saw that the Pope just released a statement about AI, and the New York Times picked it up, that he very much has has said to one of the things that we need to think about is the value of human life.
Mm-hmm.
And that no artificial intelligence, no technology should override or overcome. No way of knowing or being is more important than human beings, and that no saving money, no bottom line is more important than a human life, and that there ought to be laws in place like the ones that other countries have put in place to safeguard the ability for human beings to take care of themselves, because as we keep on replacing jobs, they do nothing but save money for whom, for what? Because people have to have a way of taking care of themselves. That's why for people who are anti-AI, you cannot turn away from this. You need to be at the table. Your voice needs to be heard. You need to be a person saying, we don't need another data center, or if we have a data center, how are we going to preserve water? How are we going to make sure it's not poisoning people? How are we going to make sure that we're preserving the health of our communities? Everybody needs to be involved. It cannot just be a corporate voice that we hear when we're talking about technology. It has to be community. It has to be about people. It has to be our faith institutions. Everybody has to be at the table, because this is a turning point in history, and we have seen it coming for 100 years. This is not new. It should not be surprising. We have been at these iterations over and over and over again, and people act like, oh, I'm surprised. I don't know why. We have done this over and over and over again. And right now, what we have is the ability to poison the whole planet if we do not take a position on this and really begin to think about, what are we doing? And so we have to really think about, is the next level of technology necessary? What does it mean to do it faster? What does it mean to get it in 2 hours rather than 2 days? What does that mean? Does it mean that someone can't feed their family? Does it mean that the water will be poisoned? What does it mean? And we don't have any laws or regulations right now. And we have to start thinking about what that means as a community, as a country, as a planet. So these are the things that are also at stake as we think about how wonderful technology might be. It also has repercussions.
Yep.
This is interesting. And, I find that I'm not seeing any comments, but I know after the fact people are going to watch this podcast and listen to it to allay some of their fears. And I'm hoping and encouraged that you do, because we tend to shy away from things that we don't really understand or things that we're afraid of. And we can't do that. And I am proud to see two women of color who know what this is and can have this healthy conversation, so that we don't feel like we can't go to a place, right, where people that we can relate to, let's just be honest, who can explain and help allay some of those fears and help guide us in such a way where to say, you don't have to be afraid. And that's why it's either afraid AI or use it as an aid. And so because of you, Audrey, I have begun to use it more as an aid. And my baby sister asks about it all the time. How many of you are using AI and it's a beast and it's this and that? But I love the balance that you and Dr. Stanley bring to the topic of using AI. So my next question is, let me see which one I want to. Let me ask Dr. Stanley, let me ask you this. How can people of faith approach AI without fear, but with discernment? What would you say to that?
Oh, I think that's your job every day. That's what you're here for, right? And it's to help other people be able to do that and to show other people how to do that. It's a practice of our faith. is to help people approach AI in that way. I think that is why we're here on the planet at this moment, is to help people figure out how to deal with artificial intelligence. And it is to do it in a way that is ethical and that is practical and that keeps a harness on so that it is something that can be useful without leading us further away from who we're supposed to be as human beings.
That is our job. I mean, that is our job. And this is the thing too. And I don't want anybody to think that we need to leave this to spiritual leaders and to pastors. If you are a person of faith, that's your job, right? That's your job to pray and be discernment. Discernment is a gift of it's for the mature. The Bible tells us in Hebrews that discernment is a hallmark of those who are spiritually mature. While other parts in scripture tell us that discerning of spirits is a spiritual gift. But anybody, if you believe in God, you've got the Holy Ghost. You've got the Spirit. And listen, and I will say this, there is a natural instinct where the hairs on the back of your neck will stand up. You could be a child who's never received Jesus Christ, and there's something that's innate in us that tells us I need to back off from this, or I'm okay with this, and I can feel safe with this. But it is all of our job as a believer to pray without ceasing, and in the multitude of counsel there is safety. Call on people. Audrey, how do we hold on to and I'm going to ask both of you, but Audrey, how do you hold on to human dignity in a world where machines can mimic human behavior?
Dr. Chinn, it's so funny because I was watching a video last night, my husband and I, and they are speedily trying to create these robots that are like human-like, right? And it's so crazy. And I said to him, there are really people out there with a lot of money who feel like we should be half humanoid and half human, which I think is absolutely crazy. I think the way to do that is to remember who you are. Remember who God made you to be. Remember what your purpose on this earth is. Remember what your task is. Like, I know what my task is. Like, before I didn't know that. I know my task is, so that keeps me human. I know I'm supposed to show people how to use the tools, but I'm also I'm in charge of making sure that I dispel any myths about what it is and what it isn't, right? So that's my human side. That's what I have to do. And I think that don't get so caught up in all of the stuff that you see out there, because right now there's some crazy people out there with a lot of money and they want to see humans be set aside and robots take our place, which is just, and I'm telling you, it's the truth and it's crazy. And they want to see us go to, it's just crazy. But I would say, remember who you are, remember what it is. What am I supposed to be doing? Why am I here? It's time, right? Dr. Stanley said it earlier. When she said that, I was like, yes, ma'am, amen to that. She said, that is our responsibility. And it is. And I tell people like that, I have a friend, she's a pastor, and she talks about different things. I said, listen, that's not my charge. My charge is to do exactly what I'm doing. She because she said to me, AI is the devil. I said, no, AI is not the devil. AI is a tool. And you got to look at the people that's using it. And my charge is what I'm doing. I know that's my charge. And I said to her, you have to figure out what your charge is. And after that conversation, she took a long look at what she was doing and what she was saying. And she said, now I know my charge. Right. And so that's what we have to do.
I love that. I love that response. Know your purpose. Know your purpose. Yeah. Stay faithful and talk to the one who created you. Know your God-given task. Because I've heard people say AI is demonic, AI is the devil, but people that use it every day, people that use it every day in so many ways. I'm saying, so how's that working out for you? But does that mean you're double-minded? But anyway, so Dr. Stanley, you answer that same question, if you will. How do we hold on to human dignity in a world where machines can mimic human behavior?
I think that Audrey has answered that perfectly, and that is that you do have to know your purpose and you do have to know who you are. And once you know that, my sheep know my voice, and a stranger they will not follow, even if that stranger is mimicking your own voice and your own face in AI, which it has the ability to do. I think that it is, as a Sunday school teacher for 30 years, there can be no better lesson than AI in terms of who God is and who you ought to be. And it's that, if you know who you are and you know your purpose and you know why you're here, nothing can take you off of that path, and nothing can take you away from who you're supposed to be. And the fact that every day, the way you treat people and who you are is ministry. And that we're supposed to be making life better for everyone around us. And that does not necessarily mean delivering a product faster. That means making someone feel more human and more connected to God. And if AI can help you do that, great. If it cannot, then there's no purpose there. And so that is what we have to bring people back to. Better, faster, stronger is not the motto. It is, how do we get more human? How do we get closer to who we're supposed to be, that God created us to be? And that doesn't mean I'm trying to tell you who to worship or who to be. It does mean I'm trying to tell you how to treat people. And so, is it treating people better? Are you getting better at that? And if you are not, then we have to ask a question. And so we should not be buying everything that people try to sell us. You have to ask yourself a question. What are they trying to sell me, and what do they want from me? And so if those questions don't add up to who you are, then I think you have to figure out how you want to extract yourself from that particular situation. But everything that we are doing and everything we're supposed to be doing, we're supposed to be growing more and more in our relationship with God. And how is AI helping you to do that? How is it helping us to get there? It's not about a bottom line. We see what happens when that's the only thing we're after. Yes, we have to take care of ourselves. Yes, we have to take care of our families. Yes, we have to take care of our communities. And yes, we have to take care of the planet. For what? To what end?
Yeah, to what end? We've got a future. We've got children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren coming. It's not just a responsibility, about me, myself, and I. We really do need to be concerned about future generations, right? And so I love how you both put it in. And Audrey was staunch in her stance. And this is my purpose. This is what I'm here to do, is to help people to navigate through this and knowing your purpose. And so, Audrey, excuse me, if someone listening is afraid right now, what would you recommend be the first step that you would encourage them to take at using AI?
I think I would tell them, just go online and look up like AI meetup. They got a bunch of them virtually. Even if you don't want to leave your house, look up some AI virtual ones where you can talk to people. If you go to like meetup.com or if you go to alignable.com, there are so many virtual meetups on there, and they have one specifically just for AI, so you can get in the room and talk to people. You need to find a tribe, Dr. Chinn, too. Like, you need to find community, because there are people who are all over these things, and you don't want to feel alone. And I personally, when we went through COVID, I felt so alone. I'm sure a lot of us did. I was so happy to be back outside. Now I feel like we're at that place again. It's not COVID this time, but it's all the technology, and people are still sitting behind the computer. And I found that, listen, let's start community. So communities there. And you can't find a community, start your own. If you're an introvert and you don't want to go to people, start a meetup. Let them come to you. People wouldn't think that I was an introvert, but I am, right? But I create things to help people come to me. So then they come to me in my safe space where I can talk and feel free to talk. Create something and bring the people to you. If you know you want to learn about AI, there's a bunch of people who want to learn about AI. There's a bunch of people who like to talk about it too. Guess what they'll do? They'll show up at your meetup and they'll talk about it for free, because they just want to talk about what they love. So that's what I would say do.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And so, Dr. Stanley, you kind of really just touched on it. I was going to ask you, what is your personal hope for how AI can serve community rather than replace it, right? And so you really just talked about it, in my opinion. If it helps you get closer to God and to build your relationship with God, then do that. But if it doesn't and it takes you further away, then extract yourself. So, Dr. Stanley, what's one mindset, mindset shift that you think helps people move from fear to confidence?
I think that you have to go figure out what AI is for yourself. You have to have some thought partners, and those thought partners can look like people. They can look like books. They can look like TED Talks. They can look like whatever, but you have to go do research for yourself. I'm a researcher, so I'm always going to tell you to go do research. And then you need to come back and gather all your research together and form your own opinion. And then you need to take your own opinion before God. And you need to figure out, when you and God together, what is it that I think about AI? Cannot be what somebody else thinks about, can't be what Dr. Stanley thinks about it. It has to be, when you have done your research and you have gone before the throne, what do you think now? Not what did the movie say, what do you think now? And so once you do that, there can be no fear, because now you have knowledge. And so, and God is not giving you a spirit of fear, but a sound mind. And so now you have a sound mind, you don't have a spirit of fear anymore. And now you can figure out what your purpose is and what you're supposed to be doing. But I spent a lot of time as a little kid in such fear of what the future was going to bring. Like that's part of how I came to know God. Is I was such a kid. I was on the playground, little kid, afraid of the end of the world, because technology was such a thing for me as a little kid. And so this has always been like the day I saw, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be so terrible, and I'm just so afraid of the future. And that is really what started me to pray as a child, because I was just so terrified of what the future would bring, and didn't really know what I was afraid of. I was just afraid. But I just remember that in that fear, finding God saying to me, you do not have to be afraid, because I'll be there. We don't have to be afraid. And it gave me such a boldness that I would rather be on the front lines of anything than knowing what happened.
Wow. I love that. That is bold. That is bold. Oh my, I love it. I love it. I love it. And it's interesting that as a child, that's the thing that you feared, was technology.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Audrey, if you could leave people with one message about AI and fear, what would it be?
Basically, to actually just start taking a look at some of the tools and find a community. And I want to say this because I feel like this is really relevant. If you're not afraid and you find yourself spending hours and hours talking to ChatGPT and that's your friend, I would say step back and go talk to some people, because ChatGPT and others have led some people down some really dire paths, and we don't want that to happen. So if you are afraid, find a real community of people. If you're not afraid and you feel like your community is ChatGPT and Claude and those are your friends, I need you to step back for a second. Take a pause and step back and go find some real people, because even though they are highly intelligent, they're not always correct. They don't always say the right thing. And but trust me, they can gaslight you just like a human. Like, you heard the term gaslighting. AI will gaslight you just like a human being, because now they have learned who you are and they tell you what you want to hear. So you got to be careful with that. If they know that you don't like something, they'll agree with you because they have learned who you are. So you have to be careful with those things. So I would say find you a real community for both. If you're afraid and if you're not afraid and you spend too much time with AI, find you a community for both, because you need real people.
Listen, I worked at an organization where one of the employees' office was right next to mine and the walls were thin. And she changed the voice of Siri. You know how you can change the voice to sound like a French man I shouldn't laugh. The voice that she changed it to was a man with a French accent, and she would talk to that thing all day. And I would get up and after, you need to get up and take a break. And it clearly she had some psychological, and emotional issues. But what Audrey is saying is real. What she's saying is real. Last word, Dr. Stanley.
Yes, I would want to reiterate. Artificial intelligence is not an entity. It's not a human being. It has been programmed by other humans. Therefore, it has human flaws. And so be very, very careful. We know that it has led people down the wrong road. And so don't trust that artificial intelligence can take the place of a human being in your life. It cannot. And don't trust that these easy relationships that people think they are developing with artificial intelligence are easy. They are not. And so you have to go out and do the hard work of what it means to be human, because those kinds of failures and those kinds of hurts and that kind of pain is what is required in order to develop into who you need to be. There is no shortcut there. So I would reiterate that you have to be very careful with that. So we've talked a lot about fear of, but also that being enamored of AI is just as dangerous. So I appreciate that you brought that up, Audrey. So thank you for that. But I would just say that this is a wonderful conversation that you're having, Dr. Chinn. I hope that it continues. I hope that people continue to study. There's so many things that we're juggling in the world, and this is just one of them. It can be a tool to help you, but there's no reason to fear. Get on the front lines and do what you need to do, because this is something that we need to be good at, particularly as people of color, because in addition to it being a tool, it's also a tool that's been developed by people who did not think of you when they were developing it. So you have to also put that into your queue and make that a part of your thought processes as you begin to navigate this artificial intelligence, because it has the same biases as all the people who programmed it.
That's right. I love it. Well, you heard it from the experts today. Don't be afraid of it, but use it as an aid, but be discerning. Know that it is not your friend. Know that you still need human interaction. And so I want to thank Dr. Stanley and Audrey Bell-Kearney. I'm so grateful for you women in my life and on this podcast, and for how you even push me to grow. And so as you come back and listen to this and you've got questions, I've seen some of you post questions after the fact. Feel free to go ahead and do that, and I will address them as best I can. And I'll reach out to these two ladies and get you the answers. If I don't know them, if they don't know them, we'll do what we can. So thank you again. Thank you. Audrey, take that.
Dr. Chinn, I'm going to pop the link to the Amazon up here so they can see the name of the first book. It wouldn't go into the chat for some strange reason, but I'm going to pop it up.
There you go.
That book is for you to find someone in your family who's not afraid of technology. Sit down, come together as a family, come together as a church, come together as a community, and figure out what you can create. Because right now, the playing field is equal. We're all at the same stage, just like Dr. Stanley said. Like, your $20 is just as good as my $20. That's the bottom line. And that's all you pretty much need to get started. So check it out. Thank you again thank you, Dr. Stanley. I really enjoyed. Now, Dr. Chinn, you know I love this kind of talk. I could talk about this all day long and twice on Sunday. But thank you so much for bringing us together to talk about this really, really important topic. Thank you, Dr. Stanley, for coming. Listen, if you guys enjoyed this episode, and if you're afraid, don't be afraid. Go back and re-listen to the episode. Make sure to subscribe to the show. There's a QR code in the upper left-hand corner. If you're watching this on YouTube TV, which a lot of you are, scan the code with your computer. This way you never miss an episode. Subscribe to the channel and share with 2 friends, not 1, but 2. It's free, doesn't cost you a thing. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Same place, same time, different topic, different guests, but same place, same time. But subscribe. Until next time, make it a great day. Bye, everybody.
Love you, ladies. Have a great day.
Love you too, Dr. Chinn.
You've been listening to Keeping It Real with Dr. Linda Chinn. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button and share it with a friend. Be sure to support the show by going to lindachinnministries.com. Subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode, and tune in again in 2 weeks at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, keep the faith and keep it real.